Good morning. So I did it. I broke the sub 30 5K this past weekend during a local race, kind of a 4th of July themed race called the Firecracker. But so yeah, a little bit of backstory. This past November, I ran my first 5K during a Thanksgiving Day turkey trot. I ran a 34-34. Like I said, it was my first race. January of this year, I made a New Year's resolution to, by this next turkey trot, so in November for Thanksgiving, I wanted to be able to do a sub 35K. We ran another race this past March in which I ran 31:18. So I was a little closer to that goal than I had anticipated in January. And I thought maybe I could do it this time. The morning of, I was very doubtful that I was going to be able to break 30. It had rained the night before. That morning was so hot and humid. During the warm-up, my heart rate was way higher than it should have been. I had been sleeping bad all week. So I think my training readiness was maybe 20 something. And my watch gave me during the warm-up a -4 performance condition update. So I was very skeptical that I was going to be able to break 30. But I somehow was able to come up the energy, and I ran a 28:23. Yay! Yeah, I did not think that was going to be possible that morning of. I really did surprise myself. I intentionally throughout the race only looked at the paces and did not look at my overall time because I didn't want to psych myself out. I knew after the first lap that I was ahead of time, but I was skeptical and I really just kept an eye on my average pace for that lap. When I looked at the results and saw my chip time, I was absolutely surprised. By 2.5, I knew that I had broken it, but I did not know that I was going to go sub 29. I did not have the capacity for the math. That was I think a 2-minute 55-second improvement from March and absolutely blew my goal out of the water. Big question is, how did I do it, I guess? Sub-threshold training. So what is sub-threshold training? Basically, without getting too sciencey, is you're trying to get your body to become more efficient at processing lactate without having such an intense workout to where you can't recover quickly afterwards. So, if you do a super intense session, the next day you're wrecked. And then the next day after that, you're still not back to normal. So basically you want short enough sessions to where you can recover from them easily, but you're still getting that adaptation. And in my experience, I've been doing this for about, I think 7 to 8 weeks. It was exactly that. So it wasn't miserable, but they weren't a piece of cake either. I would say probably on my effort scale, probably like a 5 or a 6. Not miserable, but not that easy either. If you've heard of the Norwegian-style doubles, this is basically like a modified version in single form of that. We did 2 to 3 sessions a week of this sub-threshold training. On Thursdays, we did 5 by 6 minutes with 60 seconds rest in between. And then Tuesdays and Saturdays, we did 3 by 10 minutes. Same thing with 60 seconds rest or recovery in between. We would still do a warm-up and a cool down during those sessions. The Tuesdays and Saturdays, we would do on the treadmill. We used the same treadmill, so there was no kind of variability there. But that data is a little hard to interpret because watch doesn't always pick up your pace correctly on treadmills. But if you look at, so my first Thursday session was on May 8th. An average of a 10:57. So that's where I started. That next week came down a little bit at 10:52. The third week came down to 10:17. And then by the 4th week, so about halfway, I think we did 7 or 8 Thursday sessions. I was running a 9:57, almost a whole minute just in 4 weeks. And then by the 6th week, 9:50. And the last Thursday session we did, I think it was a little higher. It was really hot that day. Yeah, 9:56. So over 8 weeks, I brought down my average pace for these sessions to about a minute. How could you implement this into your training sessions? So if you're a new runner or just building your base, I would start off with 1 session a week. And then after 2 to 4 weeks, then maybe you could bump it up to 2 sessions. What pace should your sessions be? The goal of these sessions is by end of your last rep, you want to be 2 to 4 beats below your lactate threshold. You don't want to go over your lactate threshold. That kind of beats the purpose of the exercise because it makes it harder to recover from. And that's the whole point of this, is to do shorter sessions below your lactate threshold so you can recover easier and do it again in a few days. So how do you know what your lactate threshold is? If you have a Garmin or Coros or I don't know if Apple Watch does it, smartwatch, then it should be able to tell you. If you have any data from a recent race, you can actually plug that into ChatGPT. It can tell you what your lactate threshold is. There's plenty of videos on YouTube. Just, look it up. Once you know what your lactate threshold is, what you can do is you can go to this website, lactrace.com/Norwegian singles. You can just go to Google and just Google Norwegian singles calculator. So you can put in, if you have any kind of race data. So let's see, let's just say 28:23. 5,000 meters is my 5K. And let's see down here. So this is what we've been doing. And you could see I'm at that lower range of what my last few workouts were in this lower range. So, if it was a perfect race day conditions, I maybe could have done a little better than I did for my 5K. But, it is what it is. So yeah, Norwegian singles calculator. So my lactate threshold is 184, and I think halfway through this training it went down to 183. But if you look at this workout, this was the first one we did, but if you look at the last rep, you can see where at the end I'm getting right within 4 of my lactate threshold, which like I said is about 184. And that's exactly where you want to be at the end of the last rep. If you are, I would say, more than maybe 4 beats away, you may want to up your speed the next time. And then same thing with the first rep. Let's say you get into, within 5 or 6 beats of your lactate threshold during your first rep, you need to back it down the second one you're going too fast. Yeah, it's all kind of trial and error for some weeks, especially on the treadmill, where I would start off I started off my first session at 5.6, and then by this last session, I was up to 6.4. You're going to have to adjust it during each session because for me, I got faster over the weeks. So I had to kind of adjust it every week, and then some sessions may be worse than others and you may have to bring it back down instead of increasing. So yeah, like you just got to play with it and take it session to session. Okay, so is there anything I would have done differently during this training for the 5K? And I really can't think of anything. I think the training went really well. I succeeded my expectations. I did not think that I was going, even on the best day, be able to do sub 29. I just didn't think it. Even though the numbers, obviously the calculator says I can, I just didn't, in my mind, I didn't think that was possible. Yeah, I basically knocked around 3 minutes off of my time with, 2 months of active training, 3 months since my last 5K with this, with this type of training. I would 100% recommend it. What is next for me? I started, so the day after the race, started my marathon training block for the Amsterdam Marathon in October. We're going to continue with this type of training because it's proven to be effective for me. And of course, not all training is going to work for everyone. Some people love hill reps. Different training works differently for different people. Just kind of have to trial and error. This last few months has proven that this type of training works for me. So I'm just going to keep keeping on with it. We're going to bring it down to only 2 sessions every week. So get rid of the Saturday session and just keep that as a zone 2 run, and then still do the Tuesday and the Thursday sessions, but then during the Sunday long run, work in some marathon pace effort probably every other week. So yeah, that's what's going on. And if you have any questions or, want help trying to figure it out, I guess let me know. And I'll see you next time.